Yeah, we are here at the Future Challenge booth at EuroBike, and the fifth topic of the Future Challenge is legal status equal as a cycle. And here it comes to the subject that humans should have equal chance to be in active mobility, but by muscle power, humans are not equal. So the question is how to regulate this well. What's your take on this?
Yes, the art is finding a regulation that allows for a huge variety among humans, from sportive people to, say, handicapped or the elderly, an ever-increasing market all around the world. And also kids or multi-person vehicles. And because we have such a huge variety among people, but also among types of vehicles, here one vehicle for 4 people, here a single person vehicle, but if you add a trailer you can have passengers. And also what is especially important to recognize, the weight of these vehicles or the weight carried by the vehicles differs a lot from here to here. So we need a smart regulation that allows for this huge spectrum of types of vehicles, of masses and capabilities of cyclists. And if we look at the equations of motions of vehicles, 3 factors define the force, torque or power needed to climb a hill or so. This is slope, acceleration and speed. And of course a designer has to decide what's the maximum slope we want to climb or descend. Then this is defined. There is an upper limit on slope. If we put an upper limit on speed, which is also the case today because there are legal max speed of 25 for the EU 250 volt 25 class. And if we would put a max on acceleration, we would have a very basic but very flexible framework to build such vehicles. And we would have the needed flexibility to adjust for the huge range in capabilities of humans, of cyclists, and the huge spectrum of vehicles.
So actually, the European Parliament has decided on this European Declaration on Cycling in April last year, 2024. And there it was clearly defined that active mobility should be accessible for everyone. So this is what you have been describing here, more or less, that we need as a bicycle industry, as legislators, to follow this directive and create a solution which makes the inequality of the power capability of the people level it, make a level ground so that everyone can participate in the mobility and also in the bicycle sports.
Yeah, because there is this huge range in power output by humans and also a huge range in weight, a huge range in health. For example, you have handicapped people delivering 1 watt at the pedal, and you have sporty people delivering several hundred watts at the pedal. Because of that, because of this huge dynamic range, for example, it is wrong to define maximum assist factors. For example, if you define maximum assist factor of 4, this would mean that here an elderly person, 80 years old, having an assist factor of 4, they would have a motor assist of something like this. But here, if you add or use the same assist factor for a sporty person, power would be like this if you include the motor. So that means acceleration would be very, very different, and this could lead to problems. And it's also not correct to to limit the help of elderly and handicapped persons to the same by the same assist factor as the help or the power assist for the healthy. So it's not fair, I think. So that's why we should not put a limit on assist factor. It should be able to vary between 200 for a handicapped person to maybe between 2 and 4 for a healthy person. So we cannot cap it, and we cannot define that legally, really, to arrive at the inclusive type of control of pedelecs.
Okay, so let's discuss on the next poster a potential solution which can give everyone the same chance.
Okay.
Andreas, now we are at the second poster here with a proposal which is kind of digested proposal from many papers since 2012 on the subject, and a lot of discussions with you, with Ernst Prost, with many other people, and it is about the natural borders as well as the human-made borders. So first of all, the idea is to have something where we don't need a power limit, where we don't need a speed limit, which is artificial. We have a natural speed limit, like the bicycle itself has a natural speed limit. It is the aerodynamic resistance which goes up dramatically with speed because of physics, and the rider capability, which is somewhere limited, and this is the speed limit. It's the rider's power limit is just going to a corner where he can't go faster. So the idea is that we give everyone a Dutch cruiser cycle, which is fully roadworthy, has mudguards, light and sturdy construction, and this is our benchmark. So we give everyone this bike on a flat road, and that's how it feels. But if you have a hill, the hill will be removed by the electronics with the help of added electric power. So that's why we changed also the wording from power assist, support. We went to electric augmentation. So this is like augmented reality. With augmented reality goggles, you can see your new kitchen in the empty room, and you can walk around and see if you like it or don't. And a little bit like this idea, the mountain, you go up in reality, but you can't feel it, because the electric motor can remove it, as well as the trailer with the children and the luggage. It's there, but you can't feel it, because the electric assist can remove the extra drag. So here we have 50 kilometers per hour, and to go 50 kilometers per hour with a Dutch cruiser, you need 1316 watt. And of course, this is something which most humans can never do, or just for milliseconds. So this is not enough to accelerate to the speed. And we all know how fast we can go with Dutch cruiser on the flat. Typically 20, we can go also 35, but 35, you can look here, 479 watt. So I don't know how long I can do this, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then I'm exhausted and will fall back. So this means also from the consultation with the insurance industry and with the risk analysis people there, what I learned there is that they say up to 15 kilometers per hour. This is a safe space. Because humans are delivered for 15 kilometers per hour roadworthiness. So we are able to run very quickly, and then we may be at 15. And if we stumble and fall, we will survive this with some little bruises only, and we can stand up and walk again and continue. But if it's above 15 kilometers out of our human spec, so this may kill us somewhere, or it will cause some severe damage where we have to go to hospital. So there's something which is human-made, 0 to 6. The walk assist is a human-made factor.
Concept.
So there it's allowed to have a pure motor power. You don't have to pedal because it's so-called walk assist. To 15, the muscle power you can see here is 56 watt. Some people are not even able to deliver this. They will get as much power as necessary to go to 15 kilometers per hour with an acceleration. So within 5 seconds they could reach the 15 kilometers per hour. This is based on this proposal by Ernst Prost from Velotech Labs, 0.835 meters per second square. And this is not a very fast acceleration, but not a very slow acceleration. This is a solid acceleration which allows you to reach the speed in a good time, but not be very rush. So if you are able to pedal harder, you will accelerate more, and you will also get more acceleration, because this is just relevant here in this area where you don't have to pedal hard. You can pedal with 1 or 2 watts, just move your legs, move your hand cranks, that's good enough. And based on this proposal, the speed limits of 25 and 45 are not relevant anymore. Of course, these vehicle groups could still exist with a type approval for the pedelec 45. That's all fine. It's all fully acceptable. But the pedelec could do as well this speed if you're able to pedal that hard. So this is the idea for legal framework, standard framework, which would not need to separate between a children bike, between a touring bike, between a mountain bike, between a cargo bike, between a family bike, because physics is applicable to all vehicles in the same way, because it only focuses on safety in terms of acceleration limitation and power limitation only through the power which you put in.
Okay. What is important to understand is that it's not proposed to make a new law or something, but in the future to limit speed and acceleration. Today's speed is already limited. Since if you have a high resolution measurement of speed, acceleration is just a differential of speed. So you don't need any new sensor, you just differentiate it, and then in the same way you limit speed or assisted speed or augmented speed to 25 kilometers an hour. You limit acceleration to some value, and since there is little experience with acceleration of bicycles, we propose to just say the controller, one controller on board of the bicycle has to be able to limit acceleration, and then it will be a matter of experience to see, okay, for a healthy young person having high motoric skills, you can go to 1.5 meter per second square, whereas for a handicapped person, maybe you recommend a 3-wheeler or a 4-wheeler, and you limit the acceleration there quite hard. but this person can still participate using pedelecs. So the thing is, we propose a range. The most important thing is there is an upper limit to acceleration. In two-wheelers, there should also be a minimal value of acceleration, which allows to start with so that you do not need too much time up to the speed where a two-wheeler becomes stable. So in a two-wheeler, it's maybe 0.25 or 3 minimum to maybe 1 meter per second square for healthy persons. In a three-wheeler or four-wheeler, you can say, okay, minimum acceleration can be close to nil because you're stable anyway. Yeah, this is the proposal. So we do not propose a new law. We just say limit speed and acceleration and do not limit power, because power depends very much on slope, speed, acceleration. That's it.
Yeah, so actually it would simplify the whole regulation subject, because we can have a single solution covering all bicycles.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that some of the industry players, they tell the story that they could not measure acceleration, which I think is quite funny, because already today we have to measure acceleration in the brake test, which is deceleration, is also acceleration. And acceleration is a relatively simple subject, because it's just having two inputs. It's the distance by the time which you cover. The product is acceleration.
Yeah, but for the controller that control the pedelec mechanism on board of the vehicle, they have to measure speed anyway, and if the resolution is high enough, you can differentiate that. This is 1-2 lines of C code, and the differentiation is acceleration, and then you just cut current once you reach the maximum.
Yeah.
So it's actually a simplification. You do not need a new sensor. Of course, you could add an acceleration sensor and then do some filtering and things to smoothen the measurements and look to the acceleration of that. But then you need to compensate for the slope and everything. This is too complex. But I think hub motors, easy to measure acceleration. You have the Hall signals of the motor. Fully automated mid motors, also very simple, because the controller knows the gear and sees the motor speed, so it can calculate what acceleration the vehicle has. The only thing is, maybe in a non-automated mid-motor pedelec, you would need to measure the speed of the wheel with a little bit higher resolution. But cost-wise, that's close to nil. So the cost cannot be an argument against this proposal to limit acceleration and speed.
It's about safety anyway. It's about safety, and I learned the sensation. Safety has no price tag.
Okay.
You have to do everything to reach a safe situation.
Okay.
And you can't compromise. All right?
Okay.
Thanks. Now we are on the legal framework. So we discussed about how it could go. And so let's look at it top down. So top down we have the United Nations. It's above the European Union from European perspective. And there is a definition on road transport. And there we have from 1968 the definition, the Wiener Agreement on road transport. And the definition of the cycle there was, cycle means any vehicle which has at least two wheels and is propelled solely, so exclusively, by the muscular energy on the person on that vehicle, in particular by means of pedals and hand cranks. So this means that an electric bicycle is not a cycle by this definition. So that's why today we live on exemptions, because our grandparents' generation ignored the subject. Of course, the pedaling was not there, I have to say, to protect their interests, but now it's time to refresh this And there was only one improvement of this text. They added another subject which was not available in 1968. This was the robot car. So 10 years ago, also in Frankfurt, at this showground, there was a G7 traffic minister meeting. And they decided in this meeting that they need to have robot cars added in amendment to the Vienna Agreement on road transport. Also there, we had a meeting with the Violetta Bulc, our European Commissioner of Transport at that time, and discussed about this subject. And I would say it was maybe still a little bit too early. But now, 10 years later, I would say it's time, and there's a proposal rewriting it that the modern cycle, the digital cycle, would be included. Cycle means any vehicle which is propelled by the muscular energy of the persons on that vehicle, in particular by means of pedals and hand cranks. So two things have been removed, the solely and the two wheels, because actually it could be also unicycle with today's electronics and assist technology. The new text part is optionally the muscular energy be augmented by electric energy in a way that the vehicle behaves like the muscle-powered cycle on level ground. So this means hills, inclines, weight, additional payload, additional people on the bike. This could be removed digitally by adding electric energy. And to keep also the bicycle principle, as soon as the pedals come to a standstill, the motor assistance ends immediately. So it's very clear, if you don't pedal, it's not a cycle. So this is the kind of top level correction of the cycle, because when we look around at the cycle show and look what in the bicycle shop is sold, the dominant product is the pedelec. It has replaced the muscle-powered bicycle in point of turnover. At least in Germany, it's more than 90%, and in many other European countries it's a very similar value, because people accepted the digital improved cycle, and the legislation is lagging behind. So of course, this is not complete. This is just in a simple text definition, and it will need another technical standards which describing how you test this, for example, because of course this is a very attractive category to also have fake motorcycles in it. So that's the second job, to make such a technical standard describing also the testing of this character.
It is about can we distinguish motor vehicles from cycles? And what is measurable, it would be when using a cycle, is there more exertion or contribution by the human to the propulsion than just, say, operating a throttle or pressing a foot pedal? And I think it would be measurable. If somebody doubts that an electric cycle, a pedelec, is a cycle, they could do a human power experiment. They could have different persons, handicapped, sportive persons, elderly, use a EPAC, and then ask them after the exertion using the Borg scale. The Borg scale, or the rating of perceived exertion, it is a subjective way of telling how much was the exertion. And if the exertion is not on a minimum level or on the Borg scale, you can say, okay, the person did something to help propel the vehicle, therefore it's a cycle. And by the way, it would be very easy to measure just pedal power or hand crank power. Today we have the devices, we can see, we can even measure down to watts.
Yeah.
So to the lower limits, we can measure the whole spectrum from watts to kilowatts. So it can be proved whether or not somebody at least delivers 1 watt or 3 watts to propulsion. Of course, most people deliver maybe 75, 100, 125 watts. But yeah, we could even show that handicapped person do a certain contribution.
So anyhow, the mechanical subject becomes a digital subject, and this gives many possibilities to improve it. And one of these we will see on the next poster. So we just talked about digital vehicles. Digital vehicles means many things. Everything is controlled by software, and especially when we consider modern technologies, serious hybrid, we can do almost everything. We have much less boundary conditions like the maximum gear ratio, and also we could change the character of the vehicle. And we have here 2 vehicles and some more pictures describing vehicles which can change their legal status. So this is, I called it chameleon vehicles, because chameleons can change their color and could look like something else. But here actually, this vehicle is legal at the moment only in a small area of the world, in Basel-Land, in Switzerland. So I learned that they changed even the national law for this section to make this possible. In Germany, it is unthinkable at the moment that you have a vehicle which changes legal status while driving. Even while standing. It would be a major process which cannot be reversed easily. So in this vehicle, it's a rental bike of the Basel-Land Public Transport Company, and the customer can log into the bike through the app and decide if it's a Pedelec 25, which is the base version, and if he wishes to have it as Pedelec 45, he needs to have the relevant age, and he needs to prove in his first registration that he has the paperwork ready for that. So he has the necessary driver license, as well as he has to sign off that he wears a helmet. And also the price per minute is a little bit higher for the Pedelec 45 version than the Pedelec 25. So it has this insurance plate and additional sign which lights up when it's a Pedelec 25. As well, they have through geofencing, when you're coming close to a school or kindergarten, it will always turn to the Pedelec 25. And when you are far enough away of the school or kindergarten, it goes back to the 45, for example. And BMW has presented 2021 this Ambi, Vision Ambi prototype, which is a fully rideable prototype, by the way. Single of its kind, presented here at our booth. And this has even 3 modes: Pedelec 25, Pedelec 45 and 60 motorcycle. So this means that this vehicle could go on very different road situations and adapt to it. And they also have a very sophisticated geofencing principle, so that on a bicycle track it's always a Pedelec 25. And anyhow, with doing this, we can give much more possibilities for mobility. With a single vehicle, we may save material because we don't have 2 vehicles, and we could be much more flexible. And of course, this could be also in these velomobiles. It could be also a robot like this for a sharing system, a prototype where the bike, you can order cargo bike by app, even with children's seats, and it comes to your place. You step on it, and then it becomes a Pedelec 25. And so once it's a robot car, and once it's a Pedelec. Of course, absolutely impossible at this moment in Germany, but If you want to have the mobility improvement, reduction in CO2 emissions, and the focus on human-centric improvement of living conditions, the chameleon vehicles are a crazy accelerator in user-centric thinking. So the question there is always, why do we not do it? And so from technical point of view, I think it's easy. What's your thought?
Well, I think also it's controllable by the police because it's flagged out what kind of vehicle it is at the moment. Yeah, I like the idea. Of course, default assumption is always it's maybe more a hope. Humans are reasonable and reduce the speed in urban environments. If this assumption should be wrong, I'd be willing to accept technical solutions like geofencing. I mean, today everyone has a navigation system in his or her smartphone that's abundantly available. It's really easy to do geofencing. And I like the idea that between cities, your pedaling is maybe a fast one, but within the city it slows down according to the situation, as you mentioned, in front of schools or so. And what I find especially thrilling is the idea of 3 or 4-wheeled robot cycles in town. Today, in all these rental schemes, if the electric bicycles do not distribute evenly within a huge city, they use diesel cars to dislocate these vehicles. And I think it's sort of absurd. You try to provide a fleet of rental vehicles which should be CO2 poor or neutral, and then you use diesel cars to transport them. So it's really brilliant to have a robot mode where these vehicles creep to the person which really needs that vehicle. It's brilliant, the robot cycle idea, actually. I fully support this idea.
Actually, as someone living on the countryside, I have to say, especially in the countryside, I see this as super attractive because sharing systems on the countryside are very difficult today because you have long distances and you have few people living there. But if you have a robot, you could order a vehicle to a place where there's a demand for a rental cycle maybe just once a month. Because it's a robot and it can go there, even it takes 20 minutes to go there. But it gives new mobility options.
Yeah, and in towns it can slow down very much so that pedestrians are not really endangered. If it's a 3 or 4-wheeler, it can actually creep. Yeah, and then I think nobody will really get hurt by such a robot cycle. Oh, it's brilliant. I like that idea.
So, digitalization gives new possibilities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm open to it.